Welcome to Aunties Talk Sports.
I'm KB. The courts of Indiana raised me, Detroit pays me, and I know ball both on and off the court, so don't underestimate me.
And I'm Jen. Financial statements, I know how to read them. Fantasy sports, I know how to play them. Tough calls, I know how to make them.
Whether you're heading home, headed to happy hour, or just getting ready for another weekend of sports,
we've got you covered with the biggest stories, the hottest takes, plenty of laughs, and just enough friendly debate.
From Detroit to the national stage, if it's worth talking about, we talking about it.
So grab your favorite drink,
pull up a chair,
because this is your sports happy hour.
2 aunties,
2 mics,
all game. Good to see you too. What's up, Jen?
Look, I was saying good to see you because I couldn't see anything with the skies this past week or last week when Canada had us drowning in their wildfire smoke. I couldn't see anything. The vision was cloudy.
Yeah, that was really I think just a wake up call, every day I feel like there's a lot of conversation about climate change. Are we really experiencing climate change? Are we not? But between the air quality, the parasite, the temperature, I was like, are we preparing for Armageddon? Is this Detroit 2046? But I was in the house. I was not trying to fool around with the air quality. I mean, the fact that Detroit had the worst air quality in the world was alarming, especially given, just the high asthma rates here in Detroit. So even had me wheezing.
Yes, I thought about that. I felt like I was back in the pandemic. I had my mask on. I was looking at the old people like, I see you now. I see you got your, they wear their masks all the time. I was like, I'm right there with you. I had mine on because I was worried. I don't have asthma, but I was worried about, what I was breathing in. I didn't know what I was breathing in. And this is the second year. I think I know last year Canada had wildfires and we were affected last year, but it wasn't this bad. It was worse this year. I was out in it shopping and then came back home one day and my sister got locked out, had to go back and rescue her. And I was just, I put my mask on and, was still trying to celebrate my birthday week and went out to dinner, had put my mask on. But you know what? What never changed was me watching sports. I was at dinner and, there was a big game on. There was, action going on. And I was like, excuse me, I got to put my phone on the table and watch this game because...
That's so crazy, Jen. I ain't never done. I don't think I've ever done that. So while you had your phone up, what did your friends say? Were they like, how you gonna sit here and watch the game and I'm taking you out to dinner?
People know my love of sports, but this was different because my friend Dawn and I, at least once a month, we go to one of my favorite restaurants, the Blue Nile. And the people in there know us by now, and they're looking at us like we go in and we're in there about 4 hours talking. So it wasn't like it was a short dinner and I was really being really, really rude. We were having we have long discussions and we're in there for a long time, shutting the place down. Oh my gosh, the people are going to kick us out. But they know us now, and by that time it was like, look, if I'm gonna be here this long, I gotta watch the game. The game is on, and so I just had it playing in the background just so I could see the score, keep up with the score. But she understood. She understands, and we were still talking. It wasn't like I was like drowning her out. So, but yeah, that's pretty bad. I am addicted to sports. Okay, I couldn't help it. And if I'm gone that long, if I'm engaged with in conversation with someone that long, sports is going to come up at some point. So
yeah. Now I'm a checker. You know what I mean? So like if we go out or, I'm at an event and I know it's a game on, I'm going to have my phone in my pocket and I'm going to be looking at ESPN. I'm going to be refreshing it. You know what I mean? So I'm going to pay attention, but I don't think I've ever, probably maybe just once or twice, I will probably have my phone out because I don't like to watch sports on my phone. I'm a TV watcher. You know what I mean? My oldest,
Okay.
she'll watch a whole game on her laptop. I don't want to do that. Let me see it on the big screen, but I don't really need a big TV, but I want to watch it on the TV. It's I feel like it's too small of a screen and my eyesight is already bad enough to be trying to keep track of the action on a phone. But I didn't go anywhere this weekend, but I was in my bed scrolling, watching everything. I'm gonna hit up X, I'm gonna hit up ESPN, I'm gonna hit up IG. I'm on all platforms finding sports content, which is I think a little bit why I know I have a good friend Yolanda. She calls me a pop culture enthusiast. And so I think that's why I'm always a little bit more ratchet than you, Jen, in my in my understanding of what's going on in sports, because it's for me that intersection of like sports and pop culture that is the best of both worlds to me. But when I was laying around, I actually started writing down the top things that I felt were like, the things that caught my eye, like the top 5 moments over the weekend, because it was just a lot of wild stuff over this weekend that happened in sports. And I was like, man, for it
Yes.
not to have any sort of, I mean, it was a major sporting event with the World Cup, but I was just like, sports has gone beyond the event to like now these fan fests and just different things. You're gonna see 24/7 of news
Right.
about sports and sports content. So uh what
Yeah, I
were
feel
your
like I feel like I was looking at that too. There were so many different storylines that I probably could narrow it down to 5 or my top 5. I really, if I had to think about ranking it, I would say that, and look, I'm just gonna touch on this one because I'm a little jaded here. I can't disregard Caitlin Clark's 45-point historic night.
Yeah.
Her record-setting 45-point, 10 assist night. First player in WNBA history to record those statistics. But I'm gonna throw a little shade. I'm not gonna talk too much about that one because she won't outwardly denounce racism, the racism that her platform, her fans, exhibit.
Mhm.
And she did it against the Seattle Storm, who were 6-21, and she did it while shooting 19 free throws. So, I had to throw a little shade on that, but I got to touch on that. I did, I got to give credit where credit is due. She was schooling them, and she was hitting her shots. So,
Yeah.
I got to give it up. She was 11 of 18 field goals and 6 of 10 3-pointers. So her shot was on. The next night, they played the very next night, and I think she scored like 17 points. So,
Mhm.
and then Kelsey
Okay.
Mitchell went off the next game. Kelsey Mitchell went off. They're the best player on the Indiana Fever went off, and she showed up. So she was probably my number 5
Yeah.
story if I had to say top
I
5.
I didn't put her on my list. I- I'm a petty queen. My whole thing is just like Kaylin, I just want her to shut up and dribble. So, you know what I mean? I don't just play the game, stop with all the antics, stop with all of the complaining. I think for me, and I
Yeah,
think you pay attention to football more than I do, but for some reason across
yeah.
my timeline, number 5 for me was uh Derrick Henry, who was a running back with the Baltimore Ravens, was on a podcast talking about his relationship with Nick Saban. Now, I think everybody has felt like Nick Saban was a little dirty. Like, it's like one of those don't ask, don't tell, right? It wasn't proven, but long before the NIL, people said that Alabama was paying their players. You know what I'm saying? But Derrick
Yeah.
Henry said that Nick Saban was like chastising his players, basically saying like, how are y'all praying? How are you all kneeling and thanking God? When you score a touchdown, but y'all out smoking Black and Miles, drinking and womanizing after the game. And that cracked me up because I would never think that Nick Saban is trying to be the moral police or the Christianity police for his players. Cause I don't really feel like
No.
he has a leg to stand on. So that was just so funny to me. I mean, we saw a little bit of that with like Harbaugh, who was obviously, pro-life, but that intersection of kind of religion and sports from a coaching perspective is a little bit of an anomaly.
Yeah, I've always seen Nick Saban as like a throw a rock and hide your hand type type coach. I don't know. Yeah.
And people are like, man, that's why he mad about NIL, because now everybody can pay players. But I think for me, number 4, which my pettiness is showing too, was LeBron being named the top athlete of the century by Time Magazine. I can't rock with that. So I didn't even, that's not my real top 4, but my real top 4 is at the event, the Time 100 Sports Gala. He actually previewed bald LeBron, like LeBron with the baldy. So I was calling him over the weekend LeBaldi.
Yeah.
Because, we've had LeBron with the headband when his hairline started receding. We had hair plugs, allegedly LeBron, when people said that he, got the surgery. We have had, salt and pepper beard LeBron. We've had Doc Rivers fade LeBron, but he debuted the baldy. Now, he did use Beijing on that beard at the event, which is crazy work
The
to me.
Beijing Bay. He was a
Right.
Beijing Bay.
It's like you preview your salt and pepper beard, right? At your boys' trip when y'all won the championship, at the Jay-Z concerts, but then the next night you cut off your hair, but then you dye your beard black. Like it's just so funny to me. So that was number 4. I was cackling. And of course, on IG and on X, everybody was like, LeBron is bald. LeBron is finally embracing the baldness. What was your number 4?
So my number 4 was, how I talk about legacy and the icons and, passing the torch. It was Steve Yzerman stepping down as the GM of the Detroit Red Wings and going into executive management. Going into a senior advisor going to be the senior advisor to CEO Chris Ilitch. Steve Yzerman is a Detroit legend. He's a Detroit icon, right? And he was drafted, I think he was 18 when he was drafted, way back when in 1983, and he spent 22 years in the with the Red Wings, all with the Red Wings. And then he retired, and he moved into the front office of the Red Wings. And then he went to Tampa Bay, and he was the GM or the executive, and he built some solid teams. Now he won, how many Stanley Cups did he win? He won several Stanley Cups here in Detroit before he retired. And then they won a couple after he retired. Then he went to Tampa Bay and he helped build those teams there. And he came back to Detroit in 2019. And right after he came back, Tampa Bay won the Stanley Cup. And so he missed out on, but he was instrumental in forming those teams. Came back in 2019 to Detroit. and, was looking to recreate the magic that he had as a player and as a GM in Tampa Bay, and it hasn't come to fruition.
Yeah.
So he has stepped down, rightfully so. We've had high expectations for the Red Wings. I'm not much into hockey, but I am into Detroit hockey, and I know that we've had high expectations every year, and every year it's been a letdown. So I'm hoping that, in his capacity now, he can still help be instrumental in bringing a winning team back to Detroit. So congratulations on all of your accomplishments, Steve Yzerman. And, now it's time for him to pass that torch to someone else. Hopefully they get a great coach and can do that.
Yeah,
And
I
a
don't
GM and I mean, not a coach, but
a
a
GM.
GM. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't really know anything about hockey at all. But I just had this thought. The Aunties need to take on and go to a hockey game and document that. Cause I think Detroit is a great sports town and people show up, right, for sporting events in Detroit, but I have never gone to
Yes.
a hockey game. So I like the jersey. So, I got to get my jersey, my little outfit together, but I want to go. I want to go. We're going to go.
Yeah, I've been to a few games. I want to sit at the glass. I want to sit at the glass and holler at the players. So if we go, you know, we got to
Yeah.
sit down at the glass and, catch a puck or something like that. I'll transition to my third one. Another Michigan, I'm a Detroit and Michigan sports fanatic. So Yaxel Lendeborg was the MVP of the Summer League. And so he helped lead a comeback, a 94-90 comeback over the Memphis Grizzlies to win the Summer League. And he was named MVP. So I was happy about that. Seeing him shine in the Summer League, he averaged 14.8 points, 7.2 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. Just a rookie. And all the haters who are like, he's a grown man rookie. Yeah, he's a grown man. It's all right. But he's a rookie, and I hope he gets playing time. I hope, Steve Kerr, doesn't do his rookie vanish to the bench moves. But Draymond's been saying, it's summer league, wait till training camp comes. He's been like, I don't know, having some undertones. So Draymond, you better act right and treat Yaxel right.
Yeah. I mean, I think we talked a little bit about this. The fact that people are calling him an old man, I think it's just kind of misplaced criticism because, before the one and done, you saw more players, more mature players with more all around games, right, who are making it to the NBA. And it doesn't mean that you didn't need player development, but I just think now what teams focus on, right, is drafting really unproven players and then spending a lot of dollars and a lot of time really trying to develop them. And he's coming into the NBA, right? I think his 6th year. So he's 23 years old. He has used all of his eligibility because he had a COVID year. And for me, I think that was a great get. Now, this is the best of both worlds for me. Michigan alum playing in Golden State. I love it. I can't wait to see the Warriors when they come to town. But yeah, I think Yaxel is the real deal. And with Jimmy Butler out, he's probably gonna get some PT. He's not a Jonathan Kuminga. I think again, they drafted Jonathan Kuminga, thinking about his upside, but that didn't even pan out. He just was released by the Hawks. And speaking of Michigan, number 3 for me was Tom Brady slapping Logan Paul at the Fanatics Fan Fest. Now, I love Tom Brady, go blue.
Yes.
But to me, his post-retirement, life has just been all over the place. So and he is the GOAT. Most people would agree that Tom Brady is the best quarterback alive. His legacy is cemented. So I don't understand why he is like resorting to all of this like shock entertainment, right, to stay relevant. He had the roast and got a lot of backlash for participating in that Netflix roast where people were dogging out his ex-wife Giselle and like, you know, the lack of prioritization of his children because of his career. Then last year, people were talking about him because they were like, it seemed to me that Tom Brady is drunk. You know, when he was commentating, showing up in the dark black glasses, cracking all the inappropriate jokes. Now you participate in this like WWE style confrontation with Logan Paul. He brought out this rigid hand and smacked him upside the head. And it just reeked of, when you talk about legacy, of someone not being comfortable with their act too, right? And so
Yeah,
Tom just need to be
yeah,
fine. He just need to be fine, commentate, but please stop with the antics. That was just dumb to me. That was dumb.
yeah. It was dumb, and you touched on something. He lost his family. He thought he was gonna retire and go home and be with Giselle and his kids finally, and she pulled the rug up from under him right when he was, gonna retire. I feel bad for Tom. He's been linked to several women. I think they're younger, and I think
Yeah.
he's just trying to find his place. But that slap was fake, and it looked stupid. And
Right.
yeah, but
I don't
Tom,
know.
you're all right. You're all right.
Yeah, I don't know if they told Carl Anthony Towns it was gonna be fake, because Carl Anthony Towns was looking like, what's happening? What's happening?
Right.
His eyes was as big as saucers.
My number 2 is Warde Manuel. Warde Manuel is the AD for University of Michigan, athletic director for the University of Michigan, and he's going to step down at the end of the year. I think it's been several months and tens of millions of dollars in invested in an internal cultural investigation at the University of Michigan into the athletic department. After that, started, his days were numbered. And today, I think he announced that he would be stepping down at the end of the year. Now, here's the thing about that. Warde Manuel, let's just talk about, I'm going to start with some of the lowlights, that happened under his tenure. And you have the sign stealing with Connor Stallions that happened, which ultimately led to, Jim Harbaugh leaving. I think Jim Harbaugh was going to leave for the pros anyway, but it ushered his departure after the national championship. Then you had the scandal with Sharon Moore with his assistant, his affair with his assistant. And that was the low light. You had, coaches. You had John Beilein leaving after going to a couple of championships. Didn't win all of it, but didn't win it all. But he left after that, after success. Dusty May just left after winning the national championship. So the departures of Harbaugh, Dusty May, and Beilein, those are big. But he had some great, successes.
Wait. You forgot about the smacking from Jawan. Speaking of smacking, you forgot about
yeah,
Jawan. Jawan Howard.
Jawan smacked up the assistant coach from an opposing team. I think it was Iowa or so.
Or Wisconsin. That was wild, boy. That was a wild time.
And that was the end of that was the beginning of his end. Mm-hmm. And so those were, Jawan Howard losing control of the team, that was a pretty good team, but then it just went downhill. But okay, the biggest part about that, and this was the biggest, probably one of the biggest things one of the biggest marks on his record was that it took him too long to adapt to NIL and buy into NIL and get it into the University of Michigan. And that was the reason for Michigan losing out on, talent and stuff like that. But so from like 2016 to 2022, they were okay, but then he had some successes, and then when NIL came in 2022, it kind of went down into recent years. But his days were numbered once, especially this more transgression happened. But under his leadership, they've had great successes. I mentioned the championship, the football championship under Harbaugh, the basketball championship this past season under Dusty May. They've had women's and men's gymnastics championships and have ranked, in the top, top 10 in the country in sports, in all the sports. So they've had some, it's Michigan, that's what we do, we just win, but the lowlights are always going to, hang that cloud over any highlights that you have. So his days were numbered, and we all knew that. And I think Dusty May leaving kind of, just was like, okay, yeah, we can't even. And Dusty May was, he there were, NIL probably had a lot to do with it, but he wasn't going to pass up the Dallas offer. So
Yeah. I mean, I think you're being too, I don't know. I think you're being too conciliatory here. I mean,
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
I mean, I love Michigan, but the reality is at Michigan, we want to maintain moral superiority. That's just the truth.
I know.
Right? We focus on our kind of academic achievement, our stellar reputation as an academic institution. And as the president says, academics and our academic reputation, right, is what is first and foremost. Now, second is athletics. So people want the teams to be great, and that actually, right, reinforces and increases in enrollment, donor participation, all of that. The issue is that Michigan, and it pains me to say this, is like Michigan had to learn how to be just a little bit dirty, and people were going to be okay with Michigan being a little bit dirty. But then once it started to look like you're tarnishing the Michigan brand, you got to go. And so that's what this is about. They didn't want to fire him, so they're giving him an opportunity to quit because of the findings. And I looked at the report today. I looked at the talking points related to the report, and it was very clear that the leadership of the athletic department did not respond to the allegations about the improper relationship, they said, soon enough or in a consistent manner. So he was slow to do the investigation. He was inconsistent with the discipline, and they pointed specifically to the football program and said the sheer size of the football program, the organizational structure of the program, that they didn't have enough compliance staff to monitor what was going on and to ensure that employees did not feel that they would be retaliated against. That was the smoking gun. That was it, right? And so now you got $12 million in that the university has paid for the investigation, and now you have 2 lawsuits that are probably going to they're going to settle, right? They are going to settle. So I feel like Warde Manuel is the scapegoat. I'm sure everybody knew, and this also isn't just about, I would say, Warde Manuel. We've also had Mark Seisel, the previous president of the university, right, step down for an improper relationship with a subordinate. So Michigan has started to tarnish, and this pains me to say, but we gotten a little bit too comfortable with being a little dirty. So now they're gonna hire somebody to rein it in a little bit. And what's gonna be interesting to see is if winning goes down.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who steps in. It's so crazy because between Michigan and Michigan State and all these departures and departures and oh, I'm not leaving, I'm coming back. It's Michigan sports is crazy right now.
I mean,
we,
I just,
you know, we
yeah,
we can't even you can't even talk about each other because we're both in
right.
in a
And
bit of turmoil.
that's right. We have given little brother enough fodder to talk about us over the
Yes,
past couple of years. But um, I think
yes.
yeah.
We
And
were
so
like we were like Mel Tucker. How could Mel Tucker do that? And then Sharon Moore said, "Watch this."
right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Like,
He said, "Hold, look, this is about to be a bad joke." He said, "Hold my butter knife."
right.
I was
Oh
like,
man.
man, not with a butter
Oh.
knife. You threatened to kill yourself with a butter knife. Like, man, come on now. Come on. But we should have known though that it was gonna be downhill for Sharon once he got that fade tightened up. Because when brother got hired, that fade, I have a saying that says, you can always tell, a lot about a black man based on their facial hair. And I firmly stand by this. If their beard is weird and their stash is trash, something ain't right. Something ain't right. I stand by that. So when he got hired in, people were dogging him out because of his facial hair, his lack of fade, all of that. The brothers was like, something ain't right. Something ain't right. Brother found him a barber and got that crispy line up and that tight fade, and he was feeling himself. He was feeling himself after that. But
Well, he had
uh
been hat fishing us for quite some time too. So
yeah,
he took that hat off. I was like,
he took that
but
hat off and then he had to get it tightened up. But number 2 on my
what's
list,
your number 2?
and speaking of tighten it up, was Sandy Brondello, the coach of the Toronto Tempo, putting her foot
Okay.
in her mouth and referring to Angel Reese as a protected species. Now, I feel like there's a couple of parts to this. One, I'm gonna always ride with Angel. I love the fact that Angel basically called her a clown on X, right? Like she
Yes.
apologized. And
Yes.
I felt like the apology was sincere. I know a lot of people online felt like it was written by AI, but she addressed it. She didn't make excuses for it. Um,
Right.
but to refer to a Black woman or a person of color as a species, which we know historically that Black people were considered animals, was inappropriate. Now, she and Karis came to me, my daughter, and was like, "Well, Mama, people are saying that she's from Australia and that this is colloquial, like a colloquialism in Australia."
Correct.
My
Correct.
point is, where is the cultural fluency and the cultural competency training, right? The WNBA should be mandating that their coaches, their referees, their front office staff, as well as the commissioner's office have to go through training to understand one, not just issues historically or present day about race and racism, but sexism, right? If you are a coach right here in the US from another country, you need to understand how to communicate. So I'm glad that they suspended her. But the other thing that irritated me, and I don't even know who the woman was. I forgot her name, but a Black woman who used to coach on Sandy's staff came forward and said, "I worked with her. She's not racist." That pissed me off. So the thing for me is that I feel like sometimes as Black people, we don't understand somebody can be good to you personally. You can have a good relationship with someone individually. That does not mean that they should get a pass for their behavior. It doesn't mean that they don't have thoughts or ideas or a mindset, right, that is prejudice. We all have different prejudices. And I hate when Black people try to come in with their you know, I would say they cape, you know what I'm saying, and be saving them. I hate that. Let Sandy feel this heat. Let her stand on her own 2 feet. We just don't need that.
Yeah, what the Black coach could have said is that she's never experienced racism from her. She shouldn't say she's not racist. Like,
Yeah.
So Sandy Brondello. So she was a player for many, many years, and she, she did say it in Australia. That term means, that the player gets a special whistle. And she said that she was not directing it at Angel. She was directing it at the situation. So when I said I was out at dinner on Friday, watching a game, I was watching the Toronto Temple and Atlanta Dream game. And this is the game that incident happened, where that incident happened. And I watched the Dream because they're my new favorite team. Because just like I'm a LeBron fan and I'm not a Lakers fan, I'm a fan of whatever team LeBron goes to. I'm a fan of whatever team Angel Reese plays on. And so I'm a fan of the Atlanta Dream. I like the other players too, but that's why I did not want to miss the game, because I want to see them play. There were a few storylines that I wanted to see. And so I didn't find out about the Brondello incident until after the game, probably that night or the next morning. And so, there were more storylines in the game, but when she said the play that she was referring to, where Angel got a special whistle, Angel Reese was driving to the basket, and Yara Sabali, the Temple player, was guarding her. Angel went up and she ran into Sabali and she hit her in the rib. Not, just doing it was a basketball play. And they called a foul on Sabali. Rightfully so. It was a defensive foul. Angel did not get a special whistle on that play. So for her to even say that Angel Reese was a protected species, meaning she got a special whistle, was out of line. It was not accurate. It should have never been said, because that wasn't what happened. So there are a few things with her saying that, besides the fact that it wasn't a special whistle, it was a defensive foul on her player. But also, when you're talking like that about Angel Reese, knowing that there's already a negative spotlight on Angel Reese from all these racist fans, and saying that on a hot mic, where you didn't think that the hot mic would catch it, but you're saying it walking on the sideline where the crowds could catch it. People have their phones out all the time. You aren't, preventing it. But you already know that Angel Reese is experiencing racism. No matter, so even if you said, "Oh, she got a special whistle," people are gonna take that, and even if you use a different term, people are gonna take that and be like, even Sandy Brondello saying that, they're gonna run with it. Even Sandy Brondello says that Angel gets a special whistle, blah 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 blah. So you're already putting a spotlight on her no matter what. I'm glad that Angel, so when it came up as a headline, Angel responded, "Are we surprised?" and put, she put at Sandy Brondello and the clown face.
That's
and
right.
Rightfully so. And then, Sandy Brondello came out and apologized. It was a sincere apology. I don't know what people wanted from her. What more could she say? She not only apologized in writing, she tried to contact Angel Reese through their team to talk to her directly, because she said Angel doesn't know me. She doesn't know what type of person I am. So, I wanted to talk to her. And then she put out a statement and said, Angel, I apologize. I need to leave Australian-colloquialism in Australia, and I need to educate myself. She said I've played and have worked with strong Black women who have taken the time, and I coach players who take the time to educate me. And it wasn't directed at her personally. So there was just a lot happening in that one incident, and too bad it overshadowed some other storylines in that game that I was following while I was watching and during the game. Naz Hillman, who went to Michigan, go Blue. She had a perfect night. She had a perfect game where she shot, 8 for 8 field goals. 4 for 4 although 4 of those were for 3-point. So she had a perfect night. And Nas has been having kind of an up and down season. And so I was like fired up, like she was on that night. And she had a perfect game. On fire. Angel Reese had her league leading 17th double-double, and now they've played 26 games, and it was 25 games at the time. So those storylines should have been the highlight. And what happened after the game, Sandy Brondello came, and we forgot all about those highlights.
Yeah.
That should have been the main stories of that game. And so it kind of upset me because I am so tired of, first of all, I'm tired of racism, especially directed at Angel Reese. It seems to always happen with her. And, then she had to explain again, I'm going to say this one time, I'm glad that Sandy Brondello apologized. I'm also glad that she was suspended for a game, but I'm also even more glad that my teammates and the organization have really embraced me and really, helped me, feel better about the situation. And she said, I want to be with the dream for life. She is such a different experience that she experienced in Chicago. So it was just all those storylines and her having to deal with that and answer to it once again. It is just was unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, I think though there's a couple other things. One, that's what like racism and prejudice and homophobia, xenophobia, that's what it does, right? It strips people of their humanity, of their accomplishments, right? Of their brilliance by collapsing them into these stereotypes, into these tropes. So that's the first thing, right? And I think in her interview, in Angel's interview, you could see the fatigue, right? Just being tired of having to have the discussion over and over again. But the other thing here is, why is Sandy acting like there isn't a legacy of prejudice, racism, and colonialization in Australia? That was my thing.
Because she doesn't have to. Like it's this is something new. This is
just look at the Aborigines, right? And the history of colonization and how people of color are treated in Australia. So that was the thing where I was like, this excuse isn't absolving you, right? For the connotations here. But I think also, and this is kind of like a 2A, when you mentioned the Chicago Sky, I read an article, and I think a lot of times people talk about, for instance, organizations and the caliber of organizations and how they run their teams. And as a fan or as a consumer, we don't understand that there really is a distinction a lot of times in the quality and in the type of supports that players get, even in the NBA. And so I was cracking up because over the weekend, right, when I was in the house so that I could protect my lungs, there was an article that said the Chicago Sky had been practicing and have been practicing in a rec center. A rec center.
Yeah, that's nothing's changed. It hasn't changed. They're supposed to be building a practice facility, but nothing has changed.
Right. But that that escaped me. Like, I heard that the Sky has some issues. People were not happy with ownership, with management. But for some reason, I missed the fact that they had people that had those athletes practicing in a public rec center. That's like having the Pistons play in practice in Northwest Activity Center. Like, what are we talking about here? So it goes beyond just Angel's reception, right? When she was picked. It's about the resources and the lack of resources that the Sky are investing in that franchise. And I think there were also like a couple of other NBA players talking about their experience in Philadelphia and like how Philadelphia didn't have like adequate nutrition staff or adequate meals, and just the
Yeah.
level, the difference between being at like um you know, a franchise like the Warriors or even the New York Knicks. And it was funny. I saw again the roommate podcast with Mike Brown talking to Jalen Brunson, and then Hart, Josh Hart, and Josh Hart was asking for the team to pick up the cost for his shooting coach, right? And so people were laughing, and Jalen was like, "That's just because he don't want to pay for it." So a lot of times, right, teams may not be coming out of pocket to pay for the support staff that players need to compete at the highest level. So that was just funny to me because Angel said, "I'm home now in Atlanta. I get the red carpet pulled out. I got these athletes and celebrities showing up at my games, and I'm getting treated right, as a professional." And so, yeah, she probably will stay down there.
Yeah, there were a couple. So the 2 more points I want to make about. So let me touch on this guy first. I want to say in their practice facility, I want to say last year they were like competing for time to practice there. Like it was, it was like
Crazy. It
weird.
was crazy.
And then one of the things when you talked about Sandy Brondello and her ignoring the fact that racism exists even in Australia. She's a white woman who doesn't have to acknowledge that and has never had to, right? So she can act like it doesn't exist, or she can ignore the fact. I've never heard her speak up and talk about the treatment that Angel gets, or or anyone else in the league for that matter, even if they were her players. But also, I saw more narrative. It was probably white fans saying, "Oh, that's just an Australian, slang. Y'all, you're reading too much into it. Species doesn't mean that, blah 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 blah." But they don't. That's because they don't have to know the history of what the word species means to the Black population, or anyone else. They were on there quick to say, "Oh, she didn't mean it. And she, it's Australian slang, and if you guys would just Google what it really means, and you wouldn't be so upset." Blah blah blah. And they totally dismissed the fact that that you can't say that. So she got a pass from a lot of people, not just the Black coach that you refer. She was getting a pass from a lot of people in the comments. I was reading a lot of comments over the weekend, but yeah, that's just, it's unfortunate. But for the Chicago Sky, so somebody said, I watched the game yesterday, Chicago Sky, Atlanta Dream. I gotta watch that one because Angel against her former team. Atlanta Dream, and we'll put a bow on this. Atlanta Dream were up by 20 some points, and Chicago cut it. Sydney, is it Sydney Taylor? I think she's on my fantasy team. I should know this, right? She was going off. She's a rookie. She was going off, and they brought them. After the half, they came back. They they took the lead. Chicago took the lead. Atlanta was suffering. Angel hurt her. She twisted her ankle. She's out. So the Dream were like trying to find their way. Well, the Dream actually ended the game winning. They ended up winning the game. Shouldn't have won that game. I'll admit Chicago should have won that game, but the Dream won on a last second layup from Jordan, Canada. So they won, you know, in the nick of time, right? And somebody posted on Facebook like, okay, I don't get it. You know, Chicago brought all these players in, brought all these superstars in. Why are we not winning these games? Why are we losing? Why are we, you know, should have beat the Dream? Why are we? And I can't help it. I put in the comments the picture of Whoopi Goldberg from The Color Purple, you know, till you do right by me. That's why Chicago's not until you do right by these players. If you didn't do right by Angel Reese, you're not, good things are not going to come to you. Just not. And everybody's making excuses. Oh, Skylar Diggins is hurt. Skylar Diggins probably, she might have played her last game in Chicago. She has not suited up since they benched her. And is she really hurt? They say, you know, Rickea Jackson, who I love, who's from Detroit.
Yeah.
She's down with an injury. Oh, since Rickea went down, we're nah. Till you do right by those players, nothing good is gonna come to you, Chicago.
Yeah, and shout out to Rickea. You mentioned Rickea Jackson. I didn't know she would be playing this season. I mean, she had a very difficult summer and off season with her NFL boyfriend, right, being arrested for, stalking her. So, shout out to her. Just it's good to see her, back because she had taken some games off last season, which just doesn't have a place just in society. But can you imagine, right, being a professional athlete and then having to manage, right, your personal life where someone is threatening your life and potentially being abusive, and you still got to go out there and perform, you know?
Right. Yeah, she took some time off during the rival for that. And she, it was, she wasn't in LA at her home. She's in Miami. They played in, Miami.
Yeah.
During on rival season, and she's, not probably not near her family. I want to say that's one reason I like that she went to Chicago. She's closer to her family, and he wound up taking a plea deal, I think so, and she approved of that. So hopefully they put that behind them. Hopefully he gets the help that he needs. But
and
that was scary.
And hopefully she can move on.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when I look at my ranking, this last one is I'm just gonna say it's diabolical that I would put this number one after everything that has happened, and it's a little bit unhinged.
What's your number one?
What's
your number one?
My number one is Trae Young and his delusional behind. You
got Trae Young as your number one. Okay, let's go.
It was just so cringe to me. Okay, I have always thought that Trae Young was a little corny. I feel like he's kind of like the Jason Derulo of the NBA. You know what I'm saying? When he came out of Oklahoma,
Jason Derulo.
Right, he had a little bit of game, but I feel like he tries too hard. I think having him in Atlanta gave him a little bit more kind of cultural relevancy. But now that he's in DC, ain't nobody checking for Trae Young. And the fact that it's just not. No, but who is checking for Trae Young? He has fallen out of the conversation, right? Of who's got next in the league. At one time, people thought that he was like a successor, right, to, Steph Curry's legacy, right? Another beige point guard with range. But he's fallen off the map. And so it was so cringe to me. Two things. One, that he was riding around in New York City. Again, I'm assuming he was there for the Fanatics Fan Fest. It was a lot of cringe moments from this weekend, but he was riding around, filming himself, watching the Atlanta Hawks playoff run from 2021, when they beat the New York Knicks. Now, if I look at my calendar, it's 2026, dude. So that was 5 years ago. Now, you had a great playoff run. First of all, it's 5 years ago. That was round 1 in the playoffs. Round 1 in the playoffs when the Hawks beat. Now, the Hawks that year had a great run, right? Did they make it to the conference finals that year or to the?
Yeah,
I think they made it to the conference finals. I think they ended up losing to the Celtics that year. That was 5 years ago. It was 5 years ago. It wasn't it wasn't the conference finals. It wasn't the NBA finals. So you are living in the past. Secondly, the New York Knicks just won the championship, Negro. Like, come on. So you riding around town hyping yourself up because you had a good playoff run 5 years ago in the first round, and the team that you love to hate just won the championship.
yeah,
And
they have a history.
right. And so it was just crazy. And then at one of his appearances, he took a Jalen Brunson jersey and ripped it up. So I want to
And
know
could barely even rip it.
right. So the first thing that I thought of was like, where your mama? Where your mama? Where your daddy? Your baby mama? Your wife? Your girlfriend? Where your boys? Do you have any friends? Who are you? Who is your team? Because somebody should have just said, Trae, I don't think you want to do that because you look pressed, you look corny, and you look out of touch, like you're trying to stay relevant and that you need antics and something off of the court to make you relevant in the league again. Show up on the court, show up on the court, show up on the court. Bring DC back. You know what I'm saying? Folks still talking about, Gilbert Arenas and the gun. People still talking about Kuzma, and Kuzma been gone from DC. People talking about John Wall and his Dougie. Ain't nobody talking about Trae Young. And you supposed to be the man there.
You know what's funny? Like, you very rarely, well, maybe not you, but I very rarely ever hear him talk. It's always like, does he talk? Like, it's always like, he's always like silent. Somebody said that's ringless behavior, and it is. I was like, that was funny. That's
right.
Ringless behavior.
And you know what else people would say? And I don't, traffic in the skin color jokes, but that was some beige behavior. That was some light skin behavior right there. that was some light skin behavior. And the last thing that he was being talked about regarding was the fact that he had gotten new teeth. And people were saying that his teeth was too big. So your game, Trae Young, has become irrelevant, right? I need you to focus on what's going on on the court and stop with, again, all the antics. But it
kind of looked like he had the same agent as Tom Brady. It was kind of along those lines.
That's right.
It was like they,
And I mean, I get it, right? That now we live and people talk about, the influence of social media, right, on, for instance, the music business, and how now artists have to have a content development strategy. I think people were talking about this with Lizzo, right? Lizzo came out with a new record. For, a lot of people, it was a flop. And she came out and she addressed it. She was like, I was a radio darling when I first came out. The business of music has changed. Now I need to figure out how to go viral, right? How to get my song, right, on people's reels. And so I think maybe what we're seeing with like Tom Brady as well as, Trae Young is athletes trying to figure out how to expand, right, their reach via social media in ways that go far beyond what's happening on the court, right? A performance, like an athletic performance. And I think sometimes it resonates, but sometimes it doesn't. I mean, you think even about LeBron James being at the Jay-Z concerts, right? And people were roasting him because he was dancing around. He was in between the stage and the seats, and people was like, he acting like it's his concert, right? But he knew that all eyes
Hey,
were on him, that he knew that that was going to get clipped up, and it did. But I think there's a fine line, between staying current, between leveraging social media and the tools that athletes have, because we know the likes, right, translate into engagement, which translate into sponsorship opportunities and more kind of economic impact. So I get it, but I think at the end of the day, you got to be relevant and authentic, and just don't be corny. That's the biggest thing. Don't be corny. But I think
I
speaking
don't know
in
if they know how to turn off the cord sometimes. they they're corny anyway. They were corny, while they were playing, but now with their, you're starting to see more of their personality, or trying to see more of their personality outside their playing. But Tom Brady was always corny, and but he was, the GOAT. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because
we
people
don't we,
show
we don't necessarily need we don't necessarily need to know you off the field. You're a commentator now on the NFL. Just do that. Russell Wilson's just gonna do that. He has his charities and stuff, but he's not out here trying to,
yeah.
stunt for the gram. It's like just do you.
Well, I mean, I don't know though. I mean, Russell has been on the he and Sierra have been on the podcast circuit, and I was thinking about this though, because you were talking about like people being corny, right? And so I think the other way that people are trying to put themselves out there is like through fashion, right? And so I was laughing because again, at the Time 100, I think it was at the Time 100 event, or maybe the ESPYs, they were roasting Russell Wilson because he came out in this like purple animal print tux. Like the suit jacket was tux. And so people was like, what the hell is he doing? What the hell he got on? So it is, I think, more pressure, right? If you think about, most of these
yeah.
athletes have spent most of their time practicing, preparing themselves mentally, physically, and emotionally to be great in a sport. And now the way sports is viewed as entertainment, there is pressure to show more of your personal life for content, to expand in like fashion, right? You think about Kyle Kuzma. Does anybody remember when Kyle Kuzma wore that pink like monstrous sweater, and it was like he looked like Snuffleupagus, right? And so he did that because he was trying to position himself, right, as a fashion icon for endorsement opportunities. So there is more pressure on athletes to expand their reach beyond sports. And I mean, I get it, right? Everybody is talking about how athletes, how their money or these contracts that they sign are basically, they're only going to see half of that. And many people are saying the way that they hold on to really generate wealth for future generations is through their endorsement deals. But maybe that's something that we delve into on a future episode, right? Like, who are athletes who've expanded their reach and who've expanded their endorsement portfolio in ways that are actually authentic to who they appear to be, versus when has it been done in a way that seems inauthentic or cringy.
So this week we have this weekend we have the WNBA All-Star game, which next week I'm going to talk about the WNBA schedule and how they screw all that up. I'm going to dive more into that, but I am interested to see the All-Star game this weekend. So we'll talk more about that next week. As well as, uh, starting to go into more of the NFL training camp. And I wanted to just thank all of our listeners and watchers for all the support that we've received, and all the comments and the questions, that will continue to come. Reach out to us and let us know about any topics that you want us to talk about, and have any questions that you want us to answer. And hey, we want to hear from you in the comments and out there, and we'll be hitting the streets. And until then, Until then, I'll say, 2 aunties,
2 mics.
all game.
Thanks again for spending some time with us. This has been another episode of Aunties Talk Sports. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share the show with your fellow sports fans. It really helps us grow our community. Have a question, a hot take, or a topic you'd like us to cover? We would love to hear from you. Email us at auntiestalksports@gmail.com or connect with us on social media at Aunties Talk Sports. Aunties Talk Sports is a podcast hosted by Jennifer Bright and KB Gaston. Find us on socials at jbright713 and at KB Gaston. Aunties Talk Sports is recorded in Detroit and produced by Danerco at Danerco on socials. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, 2 aunties, 2 mics, all game.